Hi, I'm Daniel.
And I'm Andrew.
And this is True North News. Today we'll be chatting about Doug Ford's controversial decision to cut the Toronto City Council in half. So this has been a pretty controversial topic, at least in the media.
Yeah.
It seems to be pretty widely popular just amongst individuals on my feed. I don't know about you.
I see mixed reaction. I see a lot of people who recognize that it's a big change, and so the fact that it's a big change, I think, strikes people differently. On the one hand, you have a lot of outrage of people saying, well, this is kind of a sneaky political maneuver. On the other hand, you have a lot of people who are right along with the Premier's rhetoric. He said many times, Toronto City Council is dysfunctional. It's a waste of time, a waste of money. We don't need all of these councillors. Let's trim the fat, or to quote his late brother, stop the gravy train.
Yeah.
So I think you have people on either side. I mean, you have tweets from the mayors of Vancouver and Mayor of Calgary, Naheed Nenshi, says you can't cancel elections where your political rival is running for office just because your political rival is running for office. That's a direct affront on democracy. That's tin pot dictator stuff. And he's of course referring to the fact that the regional chair election for Peel Region had Patrick Brown in the running for it, and Doug Ford effectively canceled that election, kind of stomping out Patrick Brown's career. Previously, he had stomped on Patrick Brown, a lot of Patrick Brown's legacy items. Brown wasn't able to run as a candidate for the PC party.
And that's after Ford took the leadership position.
That's right. So, I mean, it is definitely a political maneuver. But I think we need to get a few things on the record here. Like, it's all legal. That's a key point to make, is that the municipalities in this province are what they call creatures of the province. So all of their power flows from the provincial government. So
so one of the frequent criticisms that I've been seeing around is that, and even that one was made by, I think, Andrea Horath in Queen's Park, was that Doug Ford does not have a mandate to do this, and it's because it's mainly because he didn't explicitly campaign on a promise to cut down the city council. Yeah. So she's claiming he doesn't have it's undemocratic, and he doesn't have the mandate to do this, which seems like it is a somewhat relevant query. But he did explicitly campaign on reducing the size of government and constraining the powers of government. So
it's certainly not off-brand for Doug Ford.
Yeah. It's something that he's been vocal about since he was a city councillor.
This is a strategic move. John Tory defeated Doug Ford in 2014 for the mayoral race. Now John Tory's going to have to completely rethink his strategy because there's going to be a smaller council that might not be on board with him, even if he's reelected. If he's reelected in the fall. So Doug Ford's kind of toying a bit with Patrick Brown, who promptly 24 hours later announced he's running for mayor of Brampton. So he's not backing away.
A political cockroach. He will not die.
Just coming back for more. John Tory is scrambling to figure out how this impacts his chances at re-election, and then how he's going to govern if he is re-elected. And all the while, Doug Ford is able to continue with that message of, I'm doing this for the people. We want, when he was in the legislature and said, nobody tells me we want more politicians. Well, of course, all the members of his party started laughing, but I couldn't help chuckle because it's a line that plays really well with a lot of people,
When I talk to thousands of people at the city of Toronto, not one single person came up to me and said, Doug, I want more politicians.
But certainly the political class, the media class, is going to spin this as kind of not a dictator move. I mean, the mayor of Calgary seemed to think so, but definitely a heavy-handed move, I think.
And I've seen a lot of meddling with the with the local election.
Yeah.
Eroding local democracy. I've seen a lot of comments like that from politicians, from ex-politicians, from journalists.
I mean, again, well, the thing, as I say, with local democracy is that there's precedent for this. The municipalities are effectively corporations created by the province. They don't have the constitutional status that the provinces have vis-a-vis the federal government. So the federal government could never do something like this on its own to the provinces. The federal government could never do something like this to the cities. But the provinces have that relationship. In the 90s, there was a whole redrawing of the boundaries of townships and municipalities.
But it was done in a nonpartisan way, long form, allowing for, criticism to be had and various stakeholders to be informed. So what do you think about that? It's a sudden move by a partisan agent.
Well,
I think that's what's bothering people.
Yeah, I think certainly, like, it's going to be drastic, and it remains to be seen what all the effects are, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to take some time to realize that, but I think that it's in keeping with the mandate of change right now.
Yeah.
Of not taking too much time on this, and you're seeing it with cap and trade, his scrapping of that right away, of the
getting right to business.
The CEO of Hydro One is gone. A whole bunch of areas. I think though that the Toronto City Council decision is on par right now, perhaps, with the sex ed curriculum in terms of its controversy. Those are the two decisions made so far by the Ford government that it remains to be seen in the long run how people are going to view them. If the Toronto City Council can prove to be fairly functional after this with only 25 councillors, if it can save money, and if the appointment of regional chairs proves to be a better system, he might actually be able to take credit for this because he's making the decision himself, right?
And they've said that it's going to save $25 million over 4 years. I'm not sure exactly where that figure comes from.
Well,
but there's a lot to be streamlined for sure.
Yeah.
The city council's surely dysfunctional.
It's become the main piece of discussion down at city council as well. I saw a clip of John Tory and one of the other councillors who basically got into a shouting match over this, and they, I mean, as it got more and more heated, the accusation was that John Tory should have known about this.
Well, apparently he did. Doug Ford said they had consulted, then John Tory kind of deflected and said, "I thought he was joking," which seems like a kind of a weird.
It's so tough to tell, and it's so tough to tell what the relationship is like between those two men out in public versus behind closed doors in those types of meetings that they're having, right? These are formal political rivals. John Tory is a former leader of the Progressive Conservative Party that Doug Ford now leads. Mm-hmm. So the dynamic, there's a lot of personal political play that's going on between Patrick Brown, John Tory, and Doug Ford. Mm-hmm. And again, the dust hasn't fully settled, because until we get to October when these municipal elections happen, we're not going to know. Will it be Mayor Patrick Brown in Brampton, Mayor John Tory, and Premier Doug Ford? The only person we know who's still going to be here in October is Doug Ford.
Another thing that I thought was important to include is Toronto currently has a 47-person city council. If we compare that to another major city, New York, they have a 50-person city council with 3 times the population of Toronto. Mm. In New York, they also have a party system, similar to they do at the federal level. Right. They have Democrats and Republicans. In Canada, municipalities are the only level that don't have a party system, which really aids to the kind of dysfunction of the whole municipal system. In Canada, we have strict party discipline and we have people to whip the votes and make sure everyone's voting along party lines. In Toronto, it's a 47-person free-for-all. Yeah. I can't imagine trying to come to decisions with
I mean, I do
47
think,
people.
and definitely part of the move, right, is to try to link it up to provincial and federal politics. So the idea that the 25 councillors are more or less, their ridings are more, or their wards rather, are going to more or less mimic the ridings.
25, 25, 25.
25, 25, 25 for Toronto. I mean, there's some logic there. I think for smaller municipalities, the nonpartisan aspect of council works well, because effectively they're community leaders. Yeah, I don't know if there's any need in small communities for identification as a liberal, as a conservative, as what have you.
Sure.
But it's true that in Toronto, you can't help but see behind the scenes there's some political affiliation there. Yeah, some might say that if they were just upfront and declared their political affiliation, then. But I think that what might happen is you might even run into the risk of gridlock. If you can't get people working together because they're only along partisan lines. And maybe that's not as helpful in a smaller geographic location like Toronto, where you want to represent your ward first and foremost, not your party's interests.
Another thing that I think is important is keeping them in line with the wards at the federal and provincial level may also help for accountability. I think a lot of people, especially in Toronto, are much more familiar with their local constituency versus their ward.
Yeah.
Since the lines are so different, and
people in general aren't really plugged into municipal politics.
Yeah, much less so.
Yeah, the same way that they are for provincial or definitely for federal politics.
Yeah. So I saw a picture today, and hopefully we'll be able to get it up here, but it was the lines of the wards with the lines of the new constituencies overlaid, and it's super weird. Like there's wards that are part of two different constituencies and stuff like this. Like it will be confusing. So people being able to easily point to my federal MP is this, my local or my provincial MPP is this, and my local city councillor will be. I think it's good to know who's representing you.
Well, I think it's helpful when you consider the provincial elections and the federal elections, right? The fact that I grew up in the riding of Huron-Bruce, and there's a Huron-Bruce member of provincial parliament, there's a Huron-Bruce member of federal parliament, right? There is a bit of logic there in Toronto of making that simpler for people to understand.
Yeah. And then, do you think it's too close to the elections?
Well, this is this thing. People are gonna have mixed feelings on this. I mean, I couldn't help but chuckle to myself that clearly was an attack on Patrick Brown's political aspirations, right? And the fact that he did it so close to an election forced Patrick Brown to really very quickly reevaluate, okay, what do I want to be doing? And in 24 hours decide to run for mayor of Brampton.
Yeah. Sticks the land.
Yeah, it's definitely an inconvenience, because I know people who have been contemplating municipal elections for the better part of a year now. A lot of people filed nomination papers back in May, so they've effectively been laying the groundwork for their campaigns, and so to have the rug kind of pulled out from under them, I do have a lot of sympathy for them, especially in Toronto, because the campaigns can be pretty involved. They can have quite a number of volunteers. They can raise quite a bit of money on these campaigns. So that's certainly an inconvenience. But I mean, look, there are going to be, if you make a big change, there are going to be casualties along the way. So I mean, it's kind of the price you pay for the efficiency you want to gain.
Yeah, it might be a good shakeup. I think there's a lot of complacency on the city council. So having them have to compete against each other now, you're going to get only the best of the best, as opposed to kind of some latent, complacent members that have been sitting on the council for a number of years now.
Yeah.
And then what do you think about John Tory demanding that there be a referendum on the topic?
Look, that's just stalling for time, political showboating. I mean, the fact of the matter is the province has the right to do this.
Yeah.
He's got this track record. He's got experience in the Toronto City Council. He's made these sorts of promises, this guiding philosophy for his government. And there's not too much John Tory can do about it. He's just going to have to run for re-election as mayor and govern as best he can. You're playing with fire. If you put a referendum question to the people that can be spun as, do you want more politicians or fewer politicians, the people may speak and they may say, we want 25 city councillors, you know, for better or for worse. So it might just backfire on John Tory.
Other than that, you have any more general thoughts on the topic?
Again, it's a series of bold decisions from this Ford government. They're controversial for sure, but we knew that that was going to be the case once he was elected. So for political watchers like us, you know, we just get to sit back and see what happens next.
I just think it's important everyone stays critical and don't just fall into the kind of Trump trap in which just everything he does is bad.
Yeah.
Just don't be a blind contrarian. Be critical of the decisions that are being made.
Yeah, like I say, the dust still needs to settle on this, right? So we'll have to see what happens. Hey, did you like our video? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. Do you have any other topics that you'd like us to chat about? Get in touch with True North News, and be sure to follow our page for more interesting Canadian political content. From all of us here at TNN, stay informed, friends.